Cái sản phẩm Arila này nó là cái bữa ăn thay thế, có tác dụng là điều trị hỗ trợ viêm loét dạ dày này, rồi chua, trào ngược thực quản này. Thế còn thì nếu như mà một người khỏe mạnh thì vẫn có thể dùng cái này như là một bữa ăn bình thường.
Từ ngày mà uống Arila đó, mà trong vòng 10 ngày thôi, cái cơn đau dạ dày là nó cũng giảm dần. Nó không còn làm cho mình bị đau thắt, không còn làm cho mình bị quằn quại như trước nữa.
Từ khi mà cái sản phẩm Arila này cô uống cái tự nhiên nó không còn sôi bụng này, nó không còn trào ngược này, mà cô thấy nó khỏi tới 99% này.
Uống Arila là dạ dày khỏe mạnh. Uống Arila tạm biệt cơn trào ngược đầy bụng. Uống Arila là viêm loét dạ dày được cải thiện rõ rệt. Uống Arila chọn lựa thông minh bảo vệ dạ dày.
Với nguy cơ gây mất các vi khuẩn có lợi, mệt mỏi trong quá trình dùng kháng sinh liều cao điều trị viêm loét dạ dày, chuyên gia dinh dưỡng đã khuyến cáo nên sử dụng bữa ăn dinh dưỡng lành mạnh, có thể thay thế bữa ăn truyền thống hàng ngày đầu tiên của người Việt Nam, có chiết xuất từ 100% thảo dược quý và rau củ quả, đạt tiêu chuẩn 5 GMO, với hàm lượng protein thuần chay từ các loại hạt nhập khẩu trực tiếp từ Hoa Kỳ, kết hợp tinh tế cùng với các chiết xuất từ rau củ quả, với phương pháp sấy thăng hoa, giữ lại mùi vị cũng như các dưỡng chất bên trong hoàn hảo cho một hệ tiêu hóa khỏe mạnh. Đặc biệt, Arila là giải pháp dinh dưỡng toàn diện dẫn đầu kết hợp kháng sinh tự nhiên glutat và nano curcumin cùng với các chất xơ từ chiết xuất rau củ quả, chất xơ hỏa tan giúp kháng viêm, kháng khuẩn đường tiêu hóa, hỗ trợ điều trị dạ dày tá tràng, ngăn ngừa mắc các bệnh liên quan đến đường tiêu hóa và ung thư.
Ở Việt Nam của chúng ta bây giờ thì đã xuất hiện cái bữa ăn người ta gọi là bữa ăn dinh dưỡng Arila, là một cái bữa ăn thay thế đấy cho những cái người mà bị viêm loét dạ dày tá tràng, hay là những cái người mà có những cái vấn đề về bệnh lý về đường tiêu hóa. Thì phải nói đầu tiên trong thành phần của nó là có chứa cái kháng sinh tự nhiên glutat. Nó có tác dụng làm giảm cái sự bám dính của cái con vi khuẩn HP lên cái bề mặt niêm mạc của dạ dày. Kháng sinh tự nhiên này nó còn có tác dụng giảm bớt các cái triệu chứng của dạ dày như là hơi, chua này, đầy bụng này, khó tiêu này, các thứ vân vân nữa.
Tôi bị viêm loét dạ dày, lúc nào cũng mệt mỏi, ăn thì không ăn được, mà đêm thì mất ngủ, thường xuyên vì bụng nó đau, mà đau liên tục, có lúc còn bị sung huyết nữa, là cái bụng nó cứ đau quặn lại, và xong là cứ hơi liên tục, là cảm giác như là nóng sát cổ, như là có cái gì đó nó cháy ở trong cổ mình ấy, rất là khó chịu. Tôi phải đi khám xem tình trạng như thế nào. Thì bác sĩ chẩn đoán là tôi bị viêm loét dạ dày ở mức độ nặng, nên dạ dày bắt đầu có những chỗ bị sung huyết. Và sau khoảng 15 ngày sử dụng thì các cơn đau bụng đã giảm hẳn. Tình trạng hơi, chua là cũng đỡ được 4 đến 5 phần so với trước kia rồi. Thì sung huyết dạ dày giảm đến 90%. Thế là quá tuyệt vời phải không ạ? Giờ ăn uống ngon miệng hơn, hơi, chua, đau bụng gần như là không còn nữa. Đêm đến ngủ ngon hơn, cứ ngủ một mạch đến sáng, nên sáng dậy thì tinh thần nó khỏe khoắn hơn. Có đi làm đi quay ấy, thì cơ thể cũng tràn đầy năng lượng để làm việc.
Trước kia là 4 năm đấy là cô bị đau bao tử. Cô đi 5 bệnh viện, bác sĩ nói là cô bị sung huyết, rồi trào ngược dạ dày. Cô đau, cô không ngủ được, bụng nó sôi ào ào mà người ngồi mé nghe thấy. Có cái cục gì nó nổi lên đây này. Trời ơi, nó sôi cái bụng ào ào ào. Xong bắt đầu nó cứ nó viết cái cổ trong hoa, nghĩa là đêm cứ ngồi ôm gối không có ngủ được. Hoa đến mức độ thế đấy. Từ khi mà cái sản phẩm Arila này cô uống cái tự nhiên thấy cái tình trạng nó cải thiện rõ rệt luôn. Là không còn hơi nữa, không còn sôi ruột nữa. Cô đã thấy không còn nóng cái cổ đấy, không còn ho nữa. Thế giờ cái nằm bình thường nhưng mà thở được, ngủ được bình thường, ăn được, nghĩa là ăn uống được đấy.
Đặc biệt nhãn hàng Arila đang triển khai chương trình ưu đãi lớn mua 3 tặng 1, mua 5 tặng 2. Với combo từ 2 hộp trở lên, bạn sẽ nhận thêm một bình lắc tiện lợi và phiếu quà tặng trị giá 100.000 đồng cho lần mua tiếp theo. Đừng bỏ lỡ cơ hội trải nghiệm sản phẩm Arila với mức giá ưu đãi đặc biệt dành cho 99 khách hàng đầu tiên. Để lại số điện thoại trong video này hoặc liên hệ ngay tới số hotline đang hiển thị trên màn hình. Nhanh tay đặt hàng để không bỏ lỡ ưu đãi hấp dẫn này nhé.
Sản phẩm không phải là thuốc và không có tác dụng thay thế thuốc chữa bệnh.
This is an imported tree from China, where they are grown by the hundred thousands. So big fields of ficus trees that grow maybe 10 feet tall. And the reason they let them grow so quickly and so tall is to thicken up the trunk. So they add some movement in the trunk, and then they have a long shoot into the sky. And the more it grows, the faster the trunk gains a bit of curve. At some point, so maybe 2 or 3 years in the development of the tree, they cut off this long shoot. So you see that right here. And then they spend about a year or so to develop a few of the branches here, and they ship it off in containers to Europe, to the United States, etc. So that's how they speed up the development of this tree by having that long shoot, and that keeps the cost down. So these kind of trees aren't very expensive. If you have one of these trees, you will probably, if you don't prune it very often, you will have these long shoots, and you have to work with that. So you have to prune your tree every now and then. It is fall right now. That's an excellent time to do drastic maintenance. So today I can prune, I can wire, I can even put it in a new pot. But throughout the year, so in summer for example, I would still prune it, but I wouldn't repot or wire at the same time. So fall is a good time, and early spring is a good time to do that more drastic maintenance. So like I said, today we'll repot, prune and wire. And since we're repotting, we can also discuss the front of the tree. So right now it's planted in a rectangular pot, so that means that this is the front or this is the front. But actually I think the tree looks a little better if you place it at an angle. So this is one option for the front. So changing it around so the pot would be like this. So actually the pots that I have in mind are a little smaller. So this could be one. And I hope actually it will fit in this small pot. So the orientation of the pot will be like that. And the other potential front is like this. And actually I think this might be the optimal front, also because the top of the tree is coming in your way, and there's two branches that kind of hug you, which looks really nice. So I think when we repot the tree, this is going to be the front. So let's see what pot will be able to fit it in. But before we repot, I want to style the tree a little bit. So the way to do that, also for the ficus tree that you might have at home, is to start with pruning. And this is always a bit scary, especially for beginners, because you don't know exactly what design you're after. But the easiest way to get started is by pruning away the things that you know for sure you won't be able to use. So let's take this shoot as an example. It's a long shoot. There's no way that I will use this section of the tree because the tree will be smaller. So I'm just going to prune, let's say, right here. Not too much, I can prune more later. And I'm just going through the tree like that, just cutting these long shoots off, some basic pruning. And just by this basic pruning, you start to understand the branch structure of your tree a little bit. So a few more cuts and let's study the tree now. So just by pruning these few branches, the shape of the tree is already much better. I'll continue pruning and also wire the tree a little bit. So some of these branches should come down a bit, and we'll take it from there. If you are reluctant to use wire, you can also just simply only prune the tree, that's fine. But today I'll wire a few of these branches just to be able to set them in position.
Deciding on the design of a bonsai isn't always easy, especially when a tree is as full and overgrown as this plant. Try to apply the pruning guidelines we just mentioned to your own trees. And if you are interested to learn more about these techniques, consider enrolling in one of our online bonsai courses. Here, expert teachers explain the relevant techniques, and you can ask them questions. For a free lesson, go to bonsaiempire.com/courses.
So finished pruning the tree, and like I said, I started with taking off those longer shoots, and then I started taking a bit more off. But simply reducing the length of these shoots already brings back a really nice shape of the canopy. So actually, you could keep the tree like this. It doesn't really need wire. I do think it needs a smaller pot because the tree, especially now that I pruned it, the pot is too large for this size of tree. So we'll repot next, but like I said, I like to add a bit of wire to a few of these branches to set them in position a little bit better. So I'm talking about these two branches, bringing them down, and a few other branches as well, but not too much. So I'll show the wiring in a detail shot later, but one of the essential rules, so to say, of wiring is that it really helps to wire two branches of more or less the same thickness with one piece of wire. So that means that I'll coil the wire once or twice around the trunk, and then one end of the wire goes on this branch and the other end of the wire goes on this branch. And that will really stabilize the wire and helps me to set these branches in the exact position that I like them to be in. So having wired these two long branches next up with relatively thick wire, then I can wire perhaps a few of the twigs attached to those branches with smaller wire. But the rule of trying to wire two branches with one piece of wire remains the same. Only if I run out of options, I can use a wire just for one piece of branch, but then I'll have to coil it a few times around another thicker branch or the trunk. So like I said, I'll add a bit of wire now, and then the next step is repotting it, placing it with the right front in a smaller pot.
The wire applied here is anodized aluminum bonsai wire. It's available in most bonsai stores, and this is the wire we use for wiring most deciduous tree species. We do wire junipers and pine trees with copper wire sometimes, just because it's a little bit stronger and more stiff, but for the softer tissue of a ficus like this, we would definitely use aluminum wire. In this shot you can see that we coil the wire around the branch, and then in the next shot you'll see that we'll wire with that same piece of wire the other branch. But at the trunk we coil the wire at least once around the trunk for stability of the wire. Before continuing, I'd like to show you our brand new Bonsai Care app. The app provides tree species specific information for all your trees, and it can set smart reminders to optimize the care for your bonsai. It is available for free in the app stores. So nearly finished wiring the tree, and this is about as far as I would go for now. You could wire all the branches and the tree would look a little bit better, but I think that the most important branches we wired this way. So the wire will stay on the tree for probably about 6 months, depending a little bit on how fast it grows. So instead of timing 6 months, I'll just keep a close eye out on the branches of the tree and remove the wire on branches before it starts to cut into the bark. The next step then is repotting the tree. So the tree was planted in a mostly organic soil mix with a bit of pumice, it seems, which is a good mix, especially for a tree that you still wish to develop. It will hold more water and more nutrients. And the soil mix we'll use for the tree, repotting it today, will still hold a little bit of organic matter, but not as much as right here. So for finished bonsai trees, I always recommend to use our standard soil mix of akadama, pumice and lava rock in equal parts, which is a completely inorganic soil mix that holds far less water. But like I said, for a tree like this that I still wish to develop, and a tree that I keep indoors as well, for me it just helps that it holds a little bit more water. So that's why I add a bit of organic matter. Next, we prepare the pot by covering the drainage holes with a mesh. We also attach 2 long wires, which will be used to anchor the tree to the pot firmly. As you can see here, we do prune the roots as well. Not too much, maximum about half of the root mass, and make sure that you end up with enough of those finer, smaller roots, because those are very important for the tree to sustain its health. The next step then is that we add a first layer of soil into the pot, which is the completely inorganic mix. This will help drain out water of the pot. So then we place the tree on top of that first layer, and we use the long wires prepared earlier to attach the tree to the pot. The reason we wiggle the tree a little bit is that we want to make sure that there's no air pockets between the roots.
we finished repotting and also the pruning and wiring. So quite a big difference with the tree before and after. But really the bones of the tree, the main structure was already there. The trunk with a nice movement, main branches. So basically we just brought back the shape of the tree and refined it by adding some wire around these branches. The repotting, I think, really had a big impact. The tree now is really in sync with the pot. It's even on the small side, I think, but as you can see, we used a bit of organic soil just to make sure that the tree has enough moisture when we place it indoors. But it fit the tree, it fit the pot very well. So this video is also about the care and the maintenance of a ficus bonsai. So what we just showed was about pruning and a bit of wiring and the repotting as well. All these techniques we have separate videos on as well, so if you want to have more information on repotting, make sure to look up that video. We also have a video on ficus bonsai care with all the tips for how to care for a ficus. But I can tell you now what my care for this tree will be in the next months. So it's November right now, so we're moving into winter. So this tree will be kept indoors at a very bright position. So as much light as I can give it, this tree will get. So it's got a big window which is south facing, so maximum sun. And I'm making sure that the soil never dries out completely. So usually that means that I probably water it maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but it really depends. So don't water on a routine, but water on observation, meaning that you observe the soil, and just before it starts to dry out, you water it. And if you water it, do so very generously. So what I do, I actually bring it into my kitchen sink, water it a lot, let it drip out all the water, and then I place it back in front of the window. So I talked about placement, about watering. The other thing then is fertilizing. So I do fertilize this tree in winter, but a little bit less than I would do in the rest of the year when the tree is growing stronger. And I fertilize using a liquid standard fertilizer. Other than that, the tree doesn't need much. So good watering, a lot of sun, and as much humidity as I can give it. So I'll place it on a humidity tray that's filled with pebbles and a bit of water, just to increase the local humidity a little bit. If you do all that, your ficus will be very happy and healthy. And the next time I probably need to prune this is in maybe 2 or 3 months from now, so there will be some new shoots, and I simply prune them back to this silhouette. So long story short, what we did today was a big maintenance, a lot of things we did at the same time, but the next 12 months it's all about a little bit of pruning and proper bonsai care, watering, placement and fertilizing. That's it.
Learn how to create your own bonsai trees by enrolling in one of our online bonsai courses. We explain techniques like pruning, wiring and repotting, and you can ask questions to the teachers. For the curriculums and free lessons, go to bonsaiempire.com/courses. The best way to start your journey into bonsai art is to buy a starter kit and grow and train a bonsai tree yourself. This tree is a juniper plant which is about 4 years old. After pruning, wiring and repotting, this was the result. Now let's start from the beginning, by removing the top layer of soil to see where the first roots appear. We carefully lift the tree from its pot and remove loose soil using chopsticks. Now that we can see where the main roots appear, we can decide on the best front of the tree. We also take into consideration the shape and taper of the trunk and the position of the main branches. The next step is to carefully remove any dead branches, dangling growth or dead foliage using scissors. This basic cleaning will reveal the structure of the plant, helping us in deciding how to design the tree. The next step is pruning. To create a more compact design, we remove the top of the tree using a concave cutter. This branch will be bent upwards later on and function as the new apex. Pruning is considered the most difficult part of creating a bonsai tree. Try to follow our lead, or consider enrolling in our Getting Started with Bonsai course, where we explain the process of bonsai design in great detail. For the curriculum and a free lesson, go to bonsaiempire.com/courses. You can safely prune up to 1/3 of your tree's foliage. At this point, we are finished pruning the tree and work starts on wiring the branches. We start with wiring the main trunk, which is still flexible enough to bend. Carefully wrap the wire around the trunk at an angle of 45 degrees, holding the wire with one hand and the trunk with the other. Now we carefully bend the trunk to compact the tree, as well as to create a less formal appearance. Next, we wire the main branches, starting with the lower branches and slowly working our way up to the apex. Try to wire 2 branches with one piece of wire. Between these 2 branches, make sure to wrap the wire at least once around the trunk for stability. Hold the branch with one hand and the wire with the other. Reposition your fingers after each twist to protect the branch. The wire should be thick enough to hold the branch in the desired shape once we bend it. This is the branch that will function as the apex of the tree. Remaining wire can be cut off using a wire cutter. Once you finish wiring the branches, you can start shaping them, moving your way up the trunk towards the apex of the tree. Next, we prepare the bonsai pot, before we start repotting. A bonsai pot should have at least one drainage hole. We attach a mesh to cover this hole with a short piece of wire. We also prepare two long wires, which will be used later to attach the tree to the pot. Next, we untangle the roots carefully using chopsticks. Using scissors, we prune long roots. We can prune up to 1/3 of the roots if needed. Now we add some soil in the pot. Place the tree slightly off-center in the pot, keeping in mind its front and the most beautiful angle for displaying it. Once you are satisfied with the placement, attach the tree to the pot using the wires we prepared earlier. Now we add more soil. Use chopsticks to make sure all air pockets are filled with soil.
We have pruned, wired, and repotted the tree. So what's next?
First, we water the tree. We will wait with fertilizing for a month and make sure that the wires are not damaging the branches after a few months.
Of the ficus tree, one of the most popular bonsai tree species for beginners, mostly because you are able to keep this tree indoors. It's not ideal, it's a subtropical tree species, so it likes high humidity, and that's something that's very hard to have in a living room. But if you provide good light and water it correctly, the tree will be fine. And in most areas you can place it outdoors from spring, summer and perhaps fall as well. And so you would only keep it indoors in winter, if you can. These trees are sold all over the place, quite cheap, and it's not a hard tree to keep alive. What it does do, it grows long shoots everywhere if you fertilize it and provide lots of light. So you will have to maintain your tree. And this video is all about the maintenance for ficus bonsai. this small pot. So the orientation of the pot would be like that. And the other potential front is like this. And actually I think this might be the optimal front, also because the top of the tree is coming in your way and there's two branches that kind of hug you, which looks really nice. So I think when we repot the tree, this is going to be the front. So let's see what pot will be able to fit it in. But before we repot, I want to style the tree a little bit. So the way to do that, also for the ficus tree that you might have at home, is to start with pruning. And this is always a bit scary, especially for beginners, because you don't know exactly what design you're after. But the easiest way to get started is by pruning away the things that you know for sure you won't be able to use. So let's take this shoot as an example. It's a long shoot. There's no way that I will use this section of the tree because the tree will be smaller. So I'm just going to prune, let's say, right here. Not too much, I can prune more later. And I'm just going through the tree like that, just cutting these long shoots off, some basic pruning. And just by this basic pruning, you start to understand the branch structure of your tree a little bit. So a few more cuts and let's study the tree now. So just by pruning these few branches, the shape of the tree is already much better. I'll continue pruning and also wire the tree a little bit. So some of these branches should come down a bit, and we'll take it from there. If you are reluctant to use wire, you can also just simply only prune the tree, that's fine. But today I'll wire a few of these branches just to be able to set them in position.
Deciding on the design of a bonsai isn't always easy, especially when a tree is as full and overgrown as this plant. Try to apply the pruning guidelines we just mentioned to your own trees. And if you are interested to learn more about these techniques, consider enrolling in one of our online bonsai courses. Here, expert teachers explain the relevant techniques, and you can ask them questions. For a free lesson, go to bonsaiempire.com/courses.
Alright, so finished pruning the tree, and like I said, I started with taking off those longer shoots, and then I started taking a bit more off. But simply reducing the length of these shoots already brings back a really nice shape of the canopy. So actually you could keep the tree like this. It doesn't really need wire. I do think it needs a smaller pot because the tree, especially now that I pruned it, the pot is too large for this size of tree. So we'll repot next, but like I said, I like to add a bit of wire to a few of these branches to set them in position a little bit better. So I'm talking about these two branches, bringing them down, and a few other branches as well, but not too much. So I'll show the wiring in a detail shot later, but one of the essential rules, so to say, of wiring is that it really helps to wire two branches of more or less the same thickness with one piece of wire. So that means that I'll coil the wire once or twice around the trunk, and then one end of the wire goes on this branch and the other end of the wire goes on this branch. And that will really stabilize the wire and helps me to set these branches in the exact position that I like them to be in. So having wired these two long branches next up with relatively thick wire, then I can wire perhaps a few of the twigs attached to those branches with smaller wire. But the rule of trying to wire two branches with one piece of wire remains the same. Only if I run out of options, I can use a wire just for one piece of branch, but then I'll have to coil it a few times around another thicker branch or the trunk. So like I said, I'll add a bit of wire now, and then the next step is repotting it, placing it with the right front in a smaller pot.
The wire applied here is anodized aluminum bonsai wire. It's available in most bonsai stores, and this is the wire we use for wiring most deciduous tree species. We do wire junipers and pine trees with copper wire sometimes, just because it's a little bit stronger and more stiff. But for the softer tissue of a ficus like this, we would definitely use aluminum wire. In this shot you can see that we coil the wire around the branch, and then in the next shot you'll see that we'll wire with that same piece of wire the other branch. But at the trunk we coil the wire at least once around the trunk for stability of the wire.